Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Jupiter's CROCK here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. My name is Matthew, joined once again by the always happy and never grumpy Ronan.
Yeah. Welcome, listener.
And, of course, Ploticus himself, Steve.
Yeah, I'm here. I think Matt and I have discovered a new goal for this series. By the end of Season 2 of Rome, can we run Ronan out of chips?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a goal that we should strive to reach. So, Ronan, do you know how many chips you have left?
I wasn't paying attention on the main lobby.
Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. But, folks, we ended Season 1 of Rome, and things happened. Julius Caesar got stabbed to death, assassinated. What else happened, Steve? You're Ploticus. That was the main thing. What else? Where did we leave Titus and Pullo at the end of Season 1?
The only characters we care about.
Titus Pullo went off on a grand marriage adventure with the slave that he wanted to marry after murdering her originally planned husband. Meanwhile, Vorenus caused his wife to commit suicide and now has to deal with the fallout of that with his kids.
Yeah. So that's where we ended, and so we are going to pick up with Season 2 here, Episode 1, Passover. Now, there are only 10 episodes in Season 2, where there was 12 last season, so they're basically going to have to speed through, 5 or 6 years of Roman history in 10 episodes. So
we're never going to get a time marker. Never.
And we're already, even in Episode 1 of Season 2, I was like, wait, what? Wait, when did this occur?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it. But Episode 1, Passover, this is basically dealing with the fallout, the ramifications of what has happened at the end of Season 1. So we're going to find out what Mark Antony's up to, what Brutus is up to, and what are the next steps in this journey we're taking. So I'm going to turn it over to Ploticus here to take us through Passover.
All right. Well, there's essentially two concurrently running plots in this episode. There's the one plot dealing with the Brutus faction versus the Mark Antony faction, and there's another plot line dealing with Vorenus and Pullo. So I'm going to talk about them separately. Let's go to our favorite plot line, which is basically everything having to do with Titus Pullo. So Titus Pullo is sitting under a tree with Irene and is like, "Hey, I'm sorry I killed your man. Do you want to get married?" And Irene, of course, says yes. And then they
very weird.
It's very strange. This is
I don't understand it.
Yeah, this relationship between Pullo and Irene is by far the strangest and most confusing thing in the show. I don't get what they're going for. I have no idea what to think, because Pullo,
and there's no time jump here. By the way, we should point out, we're going to time jump
right after.
Oh yeah, this is
literally right
immediately after. That's why last when I was like, oh yeah, they get married, and I was like, oh wait a minute, yeah, they do get married. It's not till Season 2, but it's literally 5 minutes after the end of episode 12.
Yeah, so none of us understand the relationship between Pullo and Irene, but they are married now in a very long emotional ceremony in which they spend 5 seconds putting mud on each other's face, and now they're married with the blessing of Venus and Mars. They are now married. So they're just kind of living their life. Meanwhile, Vorenus, Again, this picks up immediately after the end of Season 1. So Vorenus is still cuddling the body of his wife, and you don't know what's going to happen. Is he regretful? Is he angry? Is he a little of both? Well, then the kid that they claimed was Vorenus's grandson, but is actually completely unrelated to him. Lucius, I think is maybe his name. Basically, the affair child walks up, and Vorenus immediately switches to anger mode and goes and just grabs the kid and picks him up in the air and yells, "Whose child are you? Whose child are you?" and then Vorenus's actual children come in and stop him. Like, no, it's not his fault. Put him down, and he backhands his daughter, and he tells them, "I curse you all," and then he walks away. So he's just kind of like meandering around town, and then now
I had the hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I had the they call it all roads lead to Rome thing when you're watching the Blu-rays, and it pops up like, kind of like VHS pop-up video where it would bring up facts and stuff as you're watching it. And so it's actually kind of cool to watch it this way in order to learn more context about what's going on. So the first thing when he backhanded the girl, it sort of popped up and it said the reason essentially why everyone is freaking out right here is because Roman men, the husbands, had the right to murder their wives or their children if they so wanted. So that is why, they couldn't, like, quote unquote, get in trouble for doing that. So that's why they're all panicking right there. And when he curses them, and I'm actually going to try this in real life.
It was a simpler time. All you got to do is wait a few more years, and we'll get back to the simpler era.
Yeah, but when he actually curses his children, doing the hooked horn sort of thing he does with his hand, specifically his left hand. If a Roman was to curse somebody, that was essentially like the absolute worst thing. It makes the person who cursed the other person in a bad state, and it makes the people who are cursed incredibly in a bad state. Later on, we'll find out Pullo was like, well, you didn't sacrifice a creature.
Did you kill an animal in your name? The curse is complete.
You're good. But actually, in truth, that it is true that killing an animal makes the curse binding with the god and the person who did the curse. However, just willy-nilly doing that was supposed to portend bad omens, and the gods were going to be very, very upset. So I have a few people in my life that I think I'll do that too, and just see what happens,
Yep. Long story short, the curse is treated very seriously in this episode and the next. So Vorenus curses his family, and then he just kind of wanders around town, and then he's found by like a homeless Santa Claus who robs him and headbutts him and knocks him unconscious. So Vorenus is just like unconscious, laying out in one of the random back alleys of Rome now. And so let's go back over to Titus Pullo, who's just married the slave girl whose potential husband he murdered, and now she's like super into him for some weird reason. But they're just like living their life, and someone comes riding into town on a horse and is like, Caesar's dead, Caesar's dead. So Pullo immediately goes and steals this guy's horse, and he and Irini get on horseback, and they return to Rome, and they go try to track down Vorenus, and at this point, Vorenus has become regretful. Like he regrets what he did. He understands that none of this was the kid's fault. I think maybe he even understands that he shouldn't even have held Niobe responsible for this. But he's focused on his kids. He's like, I shouldn't have cursed my kids. I shouldn't have done that. And Pullo's like, no, it's fine. They'll come back. Okay, they'll come back. It's fine. It's gonna be.
They don't have anywhere else to go. Spoilers.
Yes, it's so.
We should explain what happened to those kids. We haven't said why they're gone.
We haven't got there yet.
Yeah, Matt. God.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Technically, I believe we have. Before all this happens, there is a scene of the kids at the home, and
that's what I thought.
Crime guy? I don't remember this. I know. I remember the character.
Erastes.
Yeah, I remember the character. I had no clue.
All right,
that guy.
Matt, Ronan, say what you want. Explain what happened to the kids, and then I'll get back to how Vorenus finds that out.
Mob guy takes the kids.
Matt, did that cover everything that you wanted to say?
Well, yeah, I was going to point out you're talking about the kids who disappeared. I was going to say, well, they are not at the house because the mob guy literally took them.
And that's what I was getting towards. The mob guy takes them, and then Vorenus goes back to the house where a woman who is like robbing him reveals all of this to Vorenus.
But we see that as viewers. We see that happen before Vorenus encounters that lady.
Yes, that's correct. Anything else you want to add?
Steve. Yeah. Continue, Steve.
All right, so Erastus Fullman takes away Vorenus' kids as well as I think his sister-in-law. So Vorenus and Pullo return to Vorenus' home, and they find a woman like hiding in a closet or something. And I don't know if I'm supposed to know who this character is. If I am, I don't know. I've forgotten it. But they immediately think that she immediately starts acting like, no, I wasn't robbing you. I wasn't robbing you. I was just taking things that were mine that I left here. But they're like, I don't care about all that. Like, where are the kids? And then she reveals Erastus Fullman took them. And so they go to I don't know, this. What is this place where Erastus Fullman is hanging out? Is it just a bar? Is it a brothel?
I guess, yeah.
I don't know. Some
his home base, the Collegium or something like that.
Yeah, so Erastus Fullman is hanging out at Erastus Fullman headquarters, and he is he is. Well, there's a scene here that I'm going to come back to that involves Mark Antony, but for the Vorenus story, Erastus Fullman's just hanging out at home, and he goes to like a sauna in like the back room. Meanwhile, Vorenus and Pullo come in and they just kill everyone in this place, and then they go find Erastus Fullman, and they're like, where are my kids? And Erastus Fullman knows he is fucked and he is not going to beg, so he's just like, oh, would you like some wine? He's just sipping wine, just trying to
dragging it out, being a dick, the good life,
taking all this in stride, and finally, like, he's at the point where he has to say something. He has to engage with Vorenus and Pullo, and so they ask him, where are Vorenus' kids? And he tells them that he fucked them, he killed them, and he dumped their bodies in the river, and then Vorenus beheads him. And so Vorenus, the in shot of the episode is Vorenus and Pullo walking down the street, and Vorenus is just carrying Erastus' severed head with him. So anything else that we need to talk about regarding Vorenus and Pullo's story in this episode?
I think that the weakness of this episode is, how do I describe this? Kind of throwing this all together so quickly. You could tell that the writers of the show were just kind of like, look, we don't have a whole lot of time to get to all the story that we need to get to, and so I would imagine in a previous version of this show, before they realized they were told by HBO they're getting canceled after this season, that the Pullo and Irini storyline would have been played out much longer. Because it's just so weird that literally, wasn't the last episode where she's freaking out because Pullo murders the guy she loves, and then she's like, yeah, I'll marry you, and then she's later on in one of the episodes, she's like, oh, can you imagine us having a baby here? What if I get pregnant here? And something like, it's so problematic and weird, it feels rushed.
Are we supposed to be thinking, this was 2,000 years ago, things were different, like our modern sensibilities naturally wouldn't make sense?
It was a simpler time, you guys.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, I've looked it up. I Googled this before to try to over the last couple of months. Like, what the fuck happened with Pullo and Irini? And it's like no one has a good explanation for what we are supposed to be getting out of this plot line. It's just everyone seems to agree. Like, yeah, that's weird and doesn't make any sense. And it's kind of out of place. But by the way, it's like, what is the purpose of Irini in this show? I don't want to take anything away from the actress, but what has this character added in any way to this series so far? Like, does she become important later? Because I'm also not sure about, why does this character even exist?
I think it's to bring some sort of humanity to Pullo.
Polo's already he's already the most he was.
Yeah, he goes nuts. Remember, he goes nuts last season, like crazy nuts, kind of like how Vorenus is nuts at the beginning of this.
Yeah, but they temper that down. It's like he was already the most human of the two, because Vorenus has always been just like a hardline dick with a extreme temper problem, and Polo's just been like a dumb brute. That's always been their characters pretty steadily throughout all of this. The Verini thing, based on my memory of season 1, is here purely because of one line from Titus. She makes me feel calm. That's it. That is the entire attraction between the two characters, or the attraction. Let me rephrase that, from one character to the other. At least currently, we have seen no. It hasn't really shown that she has any affection to him in the slightest. Honestly, you could make a pretty good argument that she's only doing this because, like, okay, well, what else are my options? I'm a slave in Roman society. At least this gets me like a step or two above the shit and mire. Like, that honestly can be made as the argument for, at least currently, based on what we know. Maybe in the next couple of episodes, something else will occur that might explain this. But as of right now, it's like this only looks like a one-way relationship, and it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, and she, throughout this episode, she keeps referring to herself as a slave, and he has to keep telling her, no, you're not a slave anymore. You're my wife. You've been freed. So I think that was a good thought, Ronan, but even with that character, she herself isn't doing it to suddenly be like, well, I'm not a slave anymore, because she still refers to herself and acts like she's a slave for him, and he has to keep stopping her from thinking that way. So it's just a very strange... it's the one thing I did not like about this episode. I really dislike this sort of Pullo Arini thing.
This is a holdover from the badness, like, as how season 1 went on. Like, the Titus and Vorenus plotline just got progressively worse and worse. This is a holdover from that, because this relationship has Steve constantly, and correctly makes mention, was not earned and is not justified at all. Titus killed the man that this woman actually loved, and he did it on just a dumb flip of rage. Like, oh, you like her? No, like that was it. If they wanted to go through with this, and have us still like this character, at least let him overhear something that, like, oh, well, this guy's been talking shit. Like, this guy's just doing it for callous. Give us something, but they didn't give us anything. So at this point, none of this is earned.
There is an audio commentary track with the creators for this episode. I'll go back and listen to that just to see if they mention anything, because this happens right at the beginning of the episode. You would think that the creators would have some sort of explanation, but I'll report back on that.
All right, so let's talk about the other plot line, arguably like the main plot line.
The A-plot.
Yes. So what happened with Caesar? Well, Caesar's dead as shit. And so now all of the people involved with this, the conspirators, Caesar supporters, they have to figure out, well, what are we going to do now? Well, Mark Antony almost gets murdered at the beginning of the episode. Some of the people that killed Caesar are also like waiting outside the building to get Mark Antony, and he escapes. Brutus goes home to cry to his mom, and he is devastated. He is devastated by what he has done. Like, he knows it was the right thing to do, but he also knows that, Caesar was this mentor to him. They were good friends. They had a father-son relationship. So Brutus is like shaking and panicking while he's telling his mom what's done. And his mom, I continue to hate her. She's like, "Oh no, you're a liberator. Everything's going to be great." Blah blah blah. But they have to figure out now, like, what's going on, what's happening. Adia and Octavius, they're planning to leave. They know that Caesar is dead. They think Mark Antony's dead. But then Mark Antony shows up, and so their plans kind of change. So now they actually have, one of the more prominent figures in Roman society is there living with them. So what are they going to do? And Octavian, who is going to become a focal point of this show at some point.
Eventually.
He hatches this plan. Well, first of all, let me back up a second. There's the reading of Caesar's will, where Caesar names Octavian his sole heir and leaves all of his money to Octavian. He also frees Pascha, the bookkeeper, and says, every Roman citizen is going to get 75 space bucks. That is the contents of Caesar's will. So after the reading of the will, Octavian, is it Octavian or Octavius? I don't know. Whatever.
Octavian is
Octavian.
the dude.
All right. Octavian hatches this plan. So he recognizes that that Brutus and Brutus's faction just think, okay, well, we're in control now. Yeah, we'll just, everything will just go back to how it was. There will be no more tyrants, no more dictators. It'll just be, the Roman Senate handling things. But Octavian's like, wait a minute. For this killing of Caesar to be legitimized, Brutus and the Senate have to name Caesar as a tyrant. The problem with that is, if he is named a tyrant, then every single thing he did is declared either illegal or null and void, and that would include naming people to the Senate. So if Brutus is in a catch-22 scenario where if he names Caesar a tyrant, he would lose his position because his appointment to the Senate is now no longer valid. But if he doesn't name Caesar a tyrant, then he just murdered the Emperor of Rome. What how's he going to get out of this? And Octavian correctly points out that they didn't think this through whatsoever. Brutus thinks everything's just going to be fine now, and it's not going to be fine. So Mark Antony, shit-eating grin Mark Antony, goes to Brutus's house. He's like, hey, you dumb fucks. Like, did you think this through, whatsoever? Are you aware now that that to justify the murder, you have to give up your own power? And they're like, oh, shit.
I love how he frames it, where he's like, oh, well, when the elections roll around, and the guy's like, elections? What are you talking about? He's like, well, of course, you guys are no longer in your positions where, of course, there's going to have to be new people elected. He's like, elections are messy business. And you see the look on their faces. They're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, they did not think this through whatsoever. They did not. They just assumed, okay, we'll kill Caesar and things will just return to normal. And, things are not going to return to normal. So here's Octavian's plan. They will basically pretend that Caesar's murder was natural causes. And I don't know how they plan to pull this off, because I thought that everyone was aware that a bunch of people just killed Caesar with a bunch of knives. But maybe they don't. But the plan is Caesar will not be declared tyrant. And that way Brutus and his cohorts get to keep their positions of power. But also there will be a general amnesty to anyone who was supporting Caesar, so that they're not accused of being complicit in the tyranny. Basically, it'll be as if Caesar died of natural causes, is what they say, and things just continue on as normal.
Struck by lightning.
Yep, things will continue on as normal. Everyone keeps their positions of power. Mark Antony continues to be the proconsul of Rome. Brutus and his cohorts continue to be senators. They just pretend like none of this happened. Caesar's just gone. He vanished in the wind, and now we're going to be happily ever after. And Brutus has no choice but to accept these terms. Well, back up. He does have a choice, but Brutus is still trying to maintain some sense of honor. And so everyone else is like, we could just kill Mark Antony too. He's right outside. It's fine.
Well, what's funny is if you back up, when Cicero first shows up, and he's like, oh, you guys are heroes, conquering heroes, you saved the Roman Republic, whatever. And then it's like, yeah, and that Mark Antony's dead. And then Brutus is like, oh, he's not dead. And Cicero's like, that was an error. That was a mistake. I'm going to go to the countryside. I got to go do shit back at my farm, way outside of town. And then Mark
He disappears like Homer Simpson into a bush.
And I love it where he's sitting there. He's like, I had nothing to do with this, Mark Antony. I did not know they were going to do this. And Brutus points out, yeah, Cicero, we didn't tell Cicero anything, because he probably... Now, if they would have told Cicero about this ahead of time, he probably would have said, think this through, you fucking idiots. It needs to be done, but we got to do it right. But they didn't. And it's just hilarious. The guy who plays Cicero is just so funny. Just his actions and everything is so hilarious.
I would like to also throw out there that it goes without saying, I don't want to shock you guys. This is what's going on right now, 100% historically accurate. When like the guys, like when they killed Caesar, these idiots never once thought about anything that would happen thereafter, and
Yeah.
that's what allowed all the chaos to well and truly destroy the Roman Republic and turn it into just a straight up like what it would become, is because these fucking morons didn't take 2 seconds after they stabbed him or before they were going to stab him to say what happens after.
Mark Antony has that great line when he's sitting there with Brutus and Servilia and Cicero and all them. He's like, "Hey, listen, just be quiet." And like everyone's listening, he's like, "You hear that? There's nothing." It's like because they thought killing Caesar, the people would be happy. And Mark Antony's like, the people are on my side. He's like, I'm gonna fuck you up if you don't take my terms. He's like, there's nobody out there cheering for Caesar's death. They're going to be at your throats. It was great.
Caesar was a master manipulator because the first things he did was like, everyone's going to get land, everyone's going to get money, and we find out he left people money in his will. He was a dictator with good publicity.
Yeah, we never see those.
He knew you had to throw, like, at the very least, he had the smarts to know occasionally you got to throw the rubes a bone.
Yeah.
Which modern day dictators forget to do. Like you have to occasionally throw the people a little bit of a bone. Otherwise,
don't worry, Ronan. Your taxes will be cut. It'll be okay.
Well, that's so good to know. Because I was just worried about that. So like that. This is complete. Like they plotted to kill him, and nobody ever bothered to think for a second that what if the people like him? What if they don't just say, "Oh, thank God for that."
Indeed. So, going back to the story.
Awkward silence, yes.
So Mark Antony, or Brutus, is trying to still have some honor. And so Brutus is like, no, I will not just murder Mark Antony. We killed Caesar specifically because Caesar is a tyrant, and that was it. That doesn't mean we get to kill all of Caesar's buddies. We did the deed. I'm going to cut a deal with Mark Antony, and they cut a deal, and so they're going to work together. And before he leaves, Mark Antony just goes and just casually kills Quintus, just slices his throat, because Quintus was the person who tried to kill Mark Antony after Caesar was dead. And when Brutus hears this, everyone else knew that Mark Antony was also a target, but they kept it quiet from Brutus because they knew Brutus was still trying to have some honor about this. So Brutus is actually furious when he finds out that they also tried to kill Mark Antony, which maybe is one of the reasons he decided to cut this deal. Regardless, Brutus and Mark Antony have cut a deal. Octavian's plan to kind of keep things running as best they can is working, and so now they got to have a funeral for Caesar. And so we see Calpurnia. She's having a viewing of the body. Everyone gets to go and say hi to Caesar's corpse. This is all prior to cutting the deal. So Mark Antony's like, "Hey, Calpurnia, we gotta get the fuck out of here. We gotta leave. We're gonna be targeted by Brutus's men," which ultimately doesn't happen. Servilia shows up to pay respect to Caesar's corpse, and Calpurnia just spits in her face twice, which I thought was hilarious. So that's what Calpurnia is doing. Everyone's planning for a funeral for Caesar, and so they paint Caesar up. They take him out to a funeral pyre, and it just they're just gonna burn him. They're gonna burn him. Gonna send him off Roman funeral. And then people start like throwing shit onto the funeral pyre. It's like they're very angry about everything that's happening. At this point, I was very confused.
Yeah, and this is part of the problem with this show skipping over stuff like this. So this actually happened. So originally what was going to happen was Caesar had, and this is historically what was going to happen. Caesar has like a public viewing where the people could see him, and then he's taken outside of the city onto like Jupiter's hill or some shit, and that's where they burn him. But the crowd just went crazy when they saw Caesar, and they took it upon themselves to burn him. And that's kind of why the fire was happening in that main area where shouldn't have. But there's a bigger problem here in terms of the
Yes.
speeches that were going
What
to be
speeches?
given. But
What no speeches
exactly.
happened. Yeah, so
Exactly.
this is a point in the show where I was very confused as to what the fuck is happening, because they roll Caesar's corpse out. Then there's a fire, and I'm thinking, okay, there's just a funeral pyre. This is normal. And then I see people start throwing fucking chairs at the fire. It looks like they're almost rioting, and I'm like, wait, what? What happened? Like, why are they angry at Caesar's corpse all of a sudden? Well, then it just hard cuts to a scene of Brutus and Brutus's cohorts looking devastated, and Mark Antony's got another big shit-eating grin on his face, and he's like, "Oh, it's fine, Brutus. You can just go and be like the grain administrator down in Egypt or something." And Brutus is like, "I will not leave the city," and Mark Antony's like, "You probably should leave this. You probably should leave the city, because things aren't looking too good for you and your people. So how about you and all of the male co-conspirators against Caesar leave, because otherwise my supporters are going to kill you, and Servilia can stay behind." And Servilia correctly points out that she will essentially be his hostage. And he's like, "Yeah, and so what? So what happened here? Like, what? How? Because they, like, 5 minutes ago in the show, they had struck this deal to keep everyone in their normal positions of power and just keep Rome operating as usual." Well, we don't actually see what happened. Instead, we are told what happened over at Erastus Fullman's bar and brothel. Before Vorenus and Pullo show up and start killing everyone, one of Erastus's men is like, "Oh yeah, guys, I was totally at this funeral," and Mark Antony stood up and he gave a big speech that turned everyone against Brutus and Brutus's people. That's it. That's how this show chooses to explain what just happened. They don't show us that speech. We see a guy secondhand explaining that the speech happened. What the hell?
Terrible decision. Terrible. Like, it would have been perfect to have those, because those two actors, James Purefoy, who plays Antony, and I can't remember the actor's name who plays Brutus. They're great fucking actors. I would have loved to see that speech, or those speeches side by side. That would have been fucking riveting.
I thought something had gone wrong. I thought, like, I actually backed up and rewatched this part again, thinking, like, did I hit the skip button? Did I unknowingly advance the episode? I thought that I had missed something, and I did, but it's because they didn't show it to me, not because I fast forwarded not recognizing it. Just absolutely fucking bizarre way to handle this. I am very confused about this segment here.
That was the worst part of this episode, in my opinion.
Yes. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up their story. Brutus and his followers are forced out of town. Rome is now under the control of Mark Antony, with the backing of Servilia and Octavian. Octavian's waiting to get all of Caesar's money, and
there's a subplot here where Antony is refusing to give Octavian
that's next
Caesar's
episode.
money. Oh, okay, then never mind.
I mean, maybe it started in this episode, but it really.
I feel like he asks in this episode.
All right, well, it comes to a head in the next episode.
Okay, yeah, because I think he mentions it. Hey, yo, where's my money? And Mark Antony's like, "Oh, don't worry. Like, we got plenty of time. I'll get it for you. Yeah, I'm super busy. I'm just super busy." And they have that sort of kind of quasi montage where Mark Antony is having to sit there and listen to all the people that are coming through. And Cicero comes up, and Mark Antony's like handing him, here's all the people that we want at the next elections, and Cicero's like, you're gonna strike those out. You can't kill me. You need me, and blah blah blah. This episode was cool, except for the Pullo shit and that complete missed opportunity of not actually showing these speeches. For the amount of money they spent on this show, I cannot for the life of me understand why they did not have Antony give that impassioned speech to show how the crowd turns on Brutus and all the conspirators. Well, I mean, one of the dumbest decisions. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a theory. It's a cynical theory, but I believe, like, because this show was, for its time, the most expensive show ever made. That was, I believe, Game of Thrones, like, handily, beat it, like, a few years later. But it is somewhat of a cynical theory, but it does kind of track with, a lot of what's happening here right now. Is that they even with the first season too, they basically spent all of that fucking money on sets and outfits and costumes, and I don't think a lot of it filtered down to the writers to actually, like, write good shit. Because, like, at least in this season, I don't know where I think if I'm not mistaken, it's later, because they wrote this episode. They wrote like 4 some odd episodes, and they had them in the can, and that's when HBO told them, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're done after this season." So, like, everything else thereafter, like all the clusterfuckery, like that kicks up to like 11, like after a few episodes, because then they have to condense like 20 some odd years of Roman history into 3 episodes. It's more or less. So I think that's what happens. They just spent they blew all their money on sets that would just burn later, and they didn't spend enough time, like, actually writing things through.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that they made a creative choice here to explain what happened with Antony and Brutus in these speeches from the perspective of the common person in Rome, which I can understand if you're. I'm trying to think in terms of, like, a creative person, like, oh well, this would be kind of cool. It'd be obvious to show people these 2 great actors giving these dueling speeches side by side, and we could do that, or we could subvert their expectations and do this other fucking thing, and I hate it. Like, get
on the IMDb, find out, was Ryan Johnson involved in this?
Like, show, don't tell. Like, when you have actors of this caliber, you gotta give them a showcase. And it's like, if you, like, even thinking from HBO's perspective, you're like, oh well, we want to get Emmy nominations and shit like that. Well, do these great actors justice by writing something really cool for them to be able to show an Emmy voter, potentially get awards and stuff, and they bypass that for some throwaway dude in Erastes' brothel, just kind of stating what happened. It's
we got to show it from the people's perspective.
Yeah, and I don't like that. Like, I'm less interested in the commoner's perspective. I'm interested in all these crazy upper crust people, doing backstabbing each other. That's what I want to see, and they didn't give it to me. And because of that, I liked everything else, really, other than the Pullo marriage thing. I liked all the rest of it. I like seeing the aftermath of Caesar's death, and Calpurnius spitting in Servilia's face, and Brutus shaking because he was, like, freaked out. I loved all of that. I just didn't like the missed opportunity with those speeches. Steve, your thoughts?
I basically just agree with you on this. Like, I was starting to get to check out of the previous episodes. It's like, all right, I don't like what's happening with this. Definitely don't like what's happening with Pullo. They're going too fast. And then I watched this episode, and aside from not liking the opening with Pullo and Irini, like, I was sucked back in. It's like, okay, I'm intrigued by what's happening with this relationship between Brutus and Mark Antony. They got to make a deal, and then 20 minutes in, like, that is all that entire, like, plot line is done. It's like, all right, well, I want to know how this happened. Like, what went wrong with this deal? I'm still interested. And then we don't see what actually went wrong with the deal. We are told about it by some random thug in Rastus Fullman's bar / brothel. The episode pulled me in, and then the ending lost me.
Do you think that, especially with the Pullo stuff, that at the end of season 1, they heard feedback where people, like Ronan, right, were like, we fucking hate how they're treating Pullo here, like how they
He
did
was
this.
the only thing you fuckers had going.
And their decision in this episode was like, okay, this is not going to make sense, but we're just going to make him likable again. Because we need
pretend like none of that stuff happened.
Yeah, like because that's how it feels to me. It doesn't feel like a natural progression where Irini basically brings him back slowly to being that good, likable brute, as Ronan would say, that we all cared about when the show first started. But it almost seems like a reaction to negative blowback, whether it was fans. I mean, the internet was a thing back then, but it wasn't giant like it is today. But they had to know that people who watched that show did not like the way they took Pullo's character, and it was just like, hey, it's been like 2 years since the end of season 1. People will forget. Ray Stevenson's charming. We'll get everybody back into the good graces of him by just making him a good guy again.
Don't worry, guys. We'll address it with a single line. We'll just sweep it under the rug with one line. It's like,
he apologized. Pullo apologized. You got to move on.
Yeah, he totally apologizes. That makes everything better. Because this show because that mindset operates on the same logic as a toddler's cartoon show. It's just, you just apologize and things are magically better.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it, folks. That's episode 1, Passover. I think that we all kind of liked it, but also had some major problems with it. But we're going to head next week into episode 2, Son of Hades. We are going to find out what happens to our characters on their next journey. Take us out, Ronan. Take us out.
Yeah, whatever.